antenatal class.
Yeah.
Many years ago, very pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I remember first meeting you because we were in one of those breakout activities in the kitchen, I think. We had to go and make tea and coffee, and we started chatting about work and how we were still commuting.
And we had that in common, didn't we? Compared to a lot of the other people on the course. We were the only ones travelling into London.
Yes. And it was really hard because we were so heavily pregnant, and getting on the tubes and the trains was hard, wasn't it?
Very hard.
And I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And then we just kept meeting up, didn't we? So I think that's probably why we got such a good friendship so quickly, because there was probably only me and you and maybe one or two others who wanted to get together weekly. And as soon as we went on maternity leave, then we didn't really have anything else to do other than meet up.
We met up
a lot,
quite a lot, didn't we?
And then the boys were born literally within two weeks of each other. So that was great. So we kept meeting up then because we needed. I really needed you because, neither of us had family nearby.
We didn't, and also I was finding I needed to have something to do every day to get out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Do something.
Yeah. And also, I quite enjoyed some of the work chats we had as well. You know, thinking about what the team was doing while we weren't there.
Yeah.
And if we were in touch and things.
Do you remember we sat for hours in these indoor play areas chatting about work? And also, yes, because we obviously both went back after the first maternity leave, back to work, and then we fell pregnant more or less at the same time for the second.
Yeah.
And then that's probably more when we were off again that time that we then started discussing
that's true.
Other work ideas.
because at that point we were both. So when we went back to work after our second maternity leaves, we both took about a year off, didn't we? Or just less than a year.
Yeah.
And then we were both commuting into London again, but we both did three days.
I did 3 days.
Yeah.
And then when we were busy once a month, because I worked in finance, I did extra work.
Oh, that's right, you did. And I had the whole like dropping off at childminder.
Yeah.
Before going into London, which I found really hard because you had to pack everybody's bags and get yourself looking half decent, get to the childminder, and then get into London.
I remember standing outside the door of the nursery, waiting for them to open at 7 o'clock in the morning, so I could drop my boy and then get to the train.
Yeah.
I hope the train was running.
Yes.
And then hope the tube wasn't delayed.
Yeah.
And then and I used to just love when I was then sitting at, getting to my desk and getting a cup of tea.
Yes.
And I could drink my cup of tea without being interrupted.
Yeah, and you could actually go to the toilet without having like a little one running after you or crawling after you and worrying about them. Yeah, I must admit, by the time I got to work and I was sitting at my desk, I loved it because then you just felt like you've got your professional self back again, and I really missed that element of it. It was almost like when I was on maternity leave, obviously it's hard. It was a wonderful, wonderful time as well, but I did feel that I wasn't like fully myself until I went back to work, because then I could come home and be a parent, but then during the day I could be a professional.
But also I think it's when you are with your children, you have to continuously think about obviously them at the same time. Whereas when you are then doing work, you can concentrate and you can forget about everything else around you. You can just sit and concentrate about, on what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, I used to really like that focus. And I think that when I was back at work for those 3 days, I was super productive because I was really enjoying using my brain.
Yeah.
Because you don't use your brain when you're at home, you're just running around manically, aren't you? But I enjoyed using my brain, and then it just meant that I could really focus. And I think I got way more done when I came back from maternity leave than the old days when I used to sit for 5 days a week, because you had no deadlines, really. You could stay late.
You could be there all day.
And then you go really slow, don't you?
Yeah, and I think you suddenly start realising that output is what matters.
Yeah.
And it's.
I think the other thing as well, I felt like it made me more sociable when I was at work, because it meant that I wanted to chat to other people, and because I missed people whilst I was on leave. When I got back, I felt like there weren't some new people when I got back, so I find it quite hard because there were a lot of new faces. But the good thing about having the new faces around is that it makes you like book in a meeting or go for a coffee to get to know them. And I really enjoyed that side of it, actually. But it was a bit overwhelming at first.
It was, because a lot of things changed whilst I was off, certainly.
Yeah.
So it was almost starting in a new position.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost felt like a new starter again, didn't you?
Yeah,
like
you
on
did.
day one, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
Really nervous. I remember getting up so early, and I typically, I remember the night before I went back on that first day was the night where one of the boys, can't remember which one, was up all night. And that just seemed to have but I used to think, how they must know I'm going to work tomorrow because they're up all night. And I remember pacing up and down thinking, I've got to be up in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that was hard. But yeah, I think once you get back into it, you make the most of it, really. You just enjoy the social aspect way more.
Yeah. And you start thinking about all the priorities, don't you?
Yeah.
What is important to get done. You also focus on who you need to see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you've got less time, so you've got to get stuff done, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the stressful thing that I used to find is when it came to about sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock, the worst thing was if you were in a meeting and you knew you had to get out to go and pick up from nursery. And when I went through my sort of early days return, I was the only person in the team who was a parent. So I was the only person having to say, right, I need to be out of here for don't know, whatever time it was, 5 o'clock, because I've got to go and pick up. And I remember getting up from those meetings and feeling so guilty because everyone was still working. And I'm sure no one ever said anything, and I'm sure they didn't mind, but it was that guilt that you felt for leaving the team in the middle of something and you're rushing off to go and do something else.
It's not a nice feeling. And I think at the beginning I felt really guilty about it, and it was almost like everyone sort of, when I got up to go, would look at that's the time now.
Yes, yeah.
But then later on, I think also you get better at sort of just realising, that's the way it's got to be.
Yeah.
So you sort of
exactly
get on with it.
Yeah, you do.
You feel less guilty because that is
true.
the circumstances. But it's not a nice feeling. There wasn't many in my office that were parents.
But you get used to it. You do get used to it, so that's good. Actually, do you hear from me? Cuckoo. Oh yes. Oh, you've got low battery.